Hi, Phil here from nowspinning.co.uk, also on Facebook and our Facebook group and Twitter and Instagram. This video is going to look at this band called Strangeways, and specifically the first album and how I discovered them. You can tell already by looking at the album artwork that it doesn't necessarily look like a typical rock album, and I think this was probably one of the problems and why they didn't kind of take the world by storm, or actually take anywhere by storm. Their next album, Native Sons, is seen as one of the greatest AOR albums of all time, but for this video we're just focusing on this first album. Now, I discovered it when I was in London one day, and I'd gone to one of my favourite record stores, which was Reckless Records on Berwick Street in central London, and they always had a section near the front where they had like new stuff had come in, and I noticed that this specific album was there, and it was actually, in fact there was quite a few of them. There was about a stack of about 30-40 copies of this record, and they were all 10 pence each. 10p. In fact, I thought it was a mistake, and I went up to the counter and I said, "Is this really 10p?" And they said, "Yes, it is." And I got the impression that somebody who'd been told to give out lots of demo copies to various radio stations, something, had just decided they weren't going to do that at all, and they just dumped them and just disappeared. Now, it could be that later on I found out that this specific lineup of the band was already gone. The vocalist had been replaced by Terry Brock, and maybe the record label just didn't see the point in pushing it too much. Also, the label that they were on was more known for its disco leanings than anything to do with rock music itself. Now, you can see from the album artwork, it has a kind of feel of the 80s, but more to do with like a new romantic album, or it gives the impression that it's a female vocalist perhaps who is behind the album itself. But for 10p, I thought, well, why not? I'll give it a go. And it wasn't until I got back home and opened the seal and pulled out the inner sleeve and realised that it could possibly be a rock band, and so maybe I'd found some hidden treasure. And you can tell from the way that the photograph looks here that this is indeed a band from that period, and they are indeed a rock band. Melodic rock, or AOR as it was known then, and they certainly are really up there amongst the big names that went on to become uber famous. The band themselves are from Scotland, and there was something about the UK in the mid-80s, anything to do with rock music, everyone was looking towards the USA. In the 70s, everyone looked towards the UK for our big, well-established legacy bands as we think of now, with Purple, Zeppelin, Sabbath, etc. But in the 80s, it was nearly all about bands coming out of the USA. Yes, we had Def Leppard and Iron Maiden and Saxon and everything, but when it came to more melodic orientated rock, melodic rock, everyone just looked towards the USA. Journey, Van Halen, Bon Jovi, etc. So this band were already at odds with how this was going to work for them. But when the needle went down on that first track, I realised that this was a band that should have been absolutely huge. Just listen to this. And it doesn't stop there. Every single track, one after the other, came in with absolutely stunning melodies and absolutely fantastic song structure and performances.
The kid needs love. The kid needs love. It's all he understands, holding head in his hand.
The vocalist, who had already been replaced because they'd wanted Terry Brock from the beginning, but he for some reason had turned them down. They took this guy on, and I thought he did an absolutely stunning job, to be honest. But it was the way that they also used their use of keyboards and light and shade. Their songs weren't typical kind of just hard rock at the time. I think that the whole imagination, and mainly written by the guitarist, but I just thought the songs were actually fantastic. whole album is absolutely stunning. Fantastic example of a really class rock band, and brilliant album. If you're into this kind of music, and I know many people are and still are into these really kind of punch the air choruses and great sounding guitars and really great production, then this album is fantastic. Yes, the one that came next gets all the kind of applause and is seen as the album everyone should have, but this one also is well worth searching out. Apart from the vinyl, it did reappear in 2011 when Rock Candy did a reissue in one of their, and it's a really, really good reissue as well. This is the little booklet. You can see this is the band here. Ian Stewart was the main songwriter and guitarist, and Tony Little was the vocalist that only survived this one album. They really did keep him in the dark actually, but he did a fantastic job. And this is a highly recommended version. It also comes with 5 bonus tracks, which are all worth hearing. So that's the Strangeways album, the Rock Candy reissue from 2011. Absolutely brilliant. So if you're into this kind of music, then I would definitely say that it's definitely worth adding to your collection. As I say, there are 3 albums that I would recommend by them, but start here. This is a great album, Strangeways from March 1986. See you soon.